Hi guys, my name is Justin Jane, and today we are going to be reading another story in Christmas Tale, Enid, Blyton. Very nice stories. The story we're going to be reading today is The Little Carol Singer. So, let's get started. "What's the matter with John?" asked Grandfather. "He looks miserable." And John's mother said, "He really wants to go with the carol singers for Christmas, but he can't because he has a cold and his voice is not that great anymore." So Grandfather took John out and he gave him some advice and said, "Do you like carol singing?" "Yeah, yes I do," said John. And Grandfather said, "I was about 6 years old, I suppose, and it was winter time, very cold and frosty." So I guess it was like really, really cold back then because it was winter time. And they didn't have I don't know, what's it called, those radiators and stuff to make the place hotter or stuff, yeah. He didn't have much money. There were me, my mother, and my little sister Hannah, all living in a tiny cottage together. "Where was your father?" asked John. "He was dead," said Grandfather. "He left my mother a little money, but it soon went. And that winter, when Christmas was near, my poor mother couldn't even pay the rent for the little cottage." Yeah, they're having a hard time. This is just a story, by the way. I'm reading a story that's saying a story. Wow, that's weird. I'm reading a story that's saying a story. So Grandfather's saying a story. It's not a story, it's a real life story that actually happened to him. He was going to work. "What happened?" asked John. "Well, she turned out, the landlord was a hard man," said his grandfather. "He said that unless he could find some money to give him, he had to give him money, or else she must be turned out of her cottage with my little sister and I." So if Grandfather's mother does not give the landlord money, he will turn his sister and his mother out of their cottage. He put his cap on and a coat on and went out in the snow. But nobody wanted a little boy's work. Nobody wanted snow swept away or errands run. I didn't get a single penny. So Grandfather is trying to get some money for his mother so they don't get turned out of their cottage. But nobody wants a little boy to work for them. They don't want snow swept out or errands run. And he didn't get a single penny, not any money. "I began to trudge home in the snow and hungry," went the old man, aka Grandpa. "I even remember how numb my hands were. How I put them under my armpits to try and keep them warm. And then, as it grew dark, I heard the sound of singing." So Grandfather is just putting his arms under his armpits and walking towards his home and stuff, and he actually hears some sounds of carol singers. "What was it? Carol singers?" asked John. "Yes, it was a party of villagers going from house to house, singing all kinds of carols," said his grandfather. "In those days, the big houses threw open their doors to the singers and welcomed them in, and gave them mulled wine and spiced apples and little cakes." "That sounds nice," said John. I should like a spiced apple." "What did you do next, Grandfather? Please tell me." John is asking his grandfather what he did next, and Grandfather actually joined the party of carol singers because he had a nice voice, and he joined them to sing. And some of the people were looking at him weirdly and thinking, "Well, where did he come from?" And the owner of that house threw the door open and let all the people in, and gave them some food. And they asked them to sing one more time. And then they heard the little boy's voice, aka Grandfather. He was a little boy back then. So people of the house wanted him to sing for them one more time because he had a nice voice. And he sung one more time. And the squire's lady, aka the owners of the house, jumped up, put her arms around me, and led me to a seat by the fire. "Now you tell me why you were sad," she said. "A boy with a voice like you shouldn't be sad. You should be glad." That rhymes. "She was nice," said John. "I told her everything," said Grandfather, "about my mother and sister and how we had no money and how the next day we were all going to be turned out into the snow, cold and freezing. I told her I had no right to be with the carol singers or to eat her apples and cakes. At that time, the others had gone on their way and I was left with the squire and his lady." "Go on, Grandfather," begged John. "This is much nicer ending." It
all true, isn't it?" "Oh yes," grandfather said. Grandfather, "quite true."
So grandfather is just in the squire's house, and he's just telling the lady about everything that happened about his sister and his mother and how they'd be turned out into the snow tomorrow. And the squire took him home to his mother and told her that the next fine little cottage she should go to the next day and pay no rent for, but he wanted one thing in return.
"What was it?" asked John.
He wanted my mother to let me learn singing and music and to have my voice trained. He said that when I grew up and earned money by my voice and music, then I could pay him back. So the squire is saying that grandfather's mother should let grandfather, the kid grandfather, to learn singing and be like famous-ish, popular, and get some money and pay him. My mother could hardly believe her ears.
"Oh, grandfather, and that was how you became such a famous singer and musician?" cried John. "All because you were caroling one night hungry and cold?"
"Yes.
So now you know why, like you, I love the old carol, 'Here we come a-wasailing.'" "You know why like you, I love the old carol, 'Here we come a-wasailing,'" said grandfather. "Let's call mother and go to the piano and sing together, shall we? And I shall remember again the time when I too went wassailing years and years ago."
So that's all that we're going to be reading today. So if you guys like this video, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell, and give me a huge thumbs up. Bye!